Today I want to tell you about defensive coordinators that Oklahoma might be able to bring to Norman, and all that's coming up after the bump.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today I want to talk to you about the defensive coordinators I think could fit with Oklahoma and that Lincoln Riley could go get. And there's 7 names on this list that I put together. And 2 of them you know, Pete Golding and Alex Grinch. You saw what Pete Golding could do firsthand in the Orange Bowl. You watched him say at Media Day, what you need to do with Kyler Murray is give him different looks. You need to make old things look new and new things look the same. You have to make him eat the ball, which means pull reads and making him hold the ball longer than he wants to in the pocket. And in doing so, he turned Kyler Murray into a man who was running for his life. He turned Kyler Murray into the glorified version of Randall Cunningham, which is to say that Alabama said, if Kyler Murray can beat us, we will take that. But we're not going to let them run the ball with the running backs, and we're going to try to take away anything that they want to do over the middle of the field. And we're just going to see how good Kyler Murray is at being Kyler Murray. Turns out he's pretty good. Still put together 300 yards passing, still put over 100 yards rushing, and yet he was the offense. That was it. I mean, if he didn't have CeeDee Lamb to throw it to and late Charleston Rambo to throw it to, he didn't really get to throw it a lot. And he didn't get much out of the running game, even though we saw flashes from Kennedy Brooks. Point is, Pete Golding showed just how good he is at this scheme thing. And we know that he can recruit, and we know that he can develop. Because this guy started out at Delta State, ended up Tusculum and UTSA, where they had a terrible defense. And he turned it into one of the best in the country in 2017. Then he goes to Alabama because that's the kind of thing that get Nick Saban's attention. Coaches inside linebackers, becomes their co-defensive coordinator, and is scheming out how to beat the most efficient football offense today, right? Lincoln Riley's offense. And I think you can get that guy, but at this point, you're looking at him going, hey, do you want all this money to come and coach at Oklahoma and turn the defense around and then basically have your choice of head coaching positions, or you can sit pretty and wait for Tosh Lapoy to leave the defense coordinator position and become Nick Saban's top assistant, which we can make a great argument is the best job for an assistant in all of football. Just bide your time, call your defense, recruit to it, win national championships. We'll see. I don't think that Pete Golding's out of the running. I still think that he's the number 1 target for Lincoln Riley and Oklahoma, but we'll have to wait and see. The next guy is Alex Grinch. You've heard me talk about Alex Grinch. I like his resume even without Ohio State. He's paired with Greg Schiano there. Greg Schiano calls the plays. It's his scheme. But Alex Grinch being the co-defensive coordinator doesn't mean diddly. He also coaches the safeties. But the reason that I like him is his pedigree. He comes from Mount Union at a time when they went 54-1, 98 to 2001, and his classmates coming out are Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell and Toledo head coach Jason Candle. 2 dudes I know can coach from football to rising stars in the sport. So is Alex Grinch. The Ohio State thing just looks good on his resume from where I'm sitting, because him being at Washington State and being their defensive coordinator and turning that defense from 96th nationally into 17th, 16th nationally is a feat, because you're paired with Mike Leach, who runs a similar air read, score often, score fast offense. That means that the defense has to be able to keep up. And not only were they able to keep up, in 2017, when he was the defensive coordinator, they gave up just 11 passing TDs in the Pac-12. If Oklahoma gave up 11 passing TDs in 2018, probably win a national championship. So give that guy the tools to go compete for talent in a place where he's used to be able to compete for talent, California, Ohio, and let him go. But we'll see, because if Greg Schiano were to take a job or get fired, I got to believe that Alex Grinch is next up for Ryan Day. If for no other reason, then they kind of share the same agent, man. So we'll see about that. The next names, you haven't heard me talk a lot about, but you can understand why they make some sense. At the top of the list after those guys is a guy like Tim DeRutyer, who doesn't have the youth, but does have the experience. He's been an interim head coach at Texas A&M. He was the head coach at Fresno State, and at Cal, he's turned them into a defensive-oriented program, where they were throwing the ball around the field until Justin Wilcox got there. They hang their hat on defense. And you could see it in the Cheez-It Bowl, where you saw two defensive-minded teams going at it, and quarterbacks couldn't complete passes if they wanted to, and they sure did want to. Now, Tim DeRutyer also can be had, because he interviewed for the Houston job alongside Cliff Kingsbury and ultimately Dana Holgorsen, who took it. So that's one to keep in the back of your head, especially with ties to California, where Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley are continuing to recruit from and trying to make inroads into places like Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, Long Beach Poly. You get my drift here. This could be a great hire. Another one that could be a great hire is another Fresno State guy, Bert Watts, who is the defensive coordinator at Fresno State now, because they too hung their hat on defense and climbed into the poll by playing outstanding defense. I really enjoyed watching what Bert Watts was able to do. He's a young guy, doesn't have a ton of experience. He's also been paired with Tedford at Fresno State, who is a great head coach, so he's had somebody to help groom him for a job like Oklahoma, and he knows the California area like the guy that I just mentioned, like Grinch does. You know that he can go in there and pull out kids. Now give him some toys to play with, and that is the kind of recruiting operation that Oklahoma has. The next name that I want to bring to your attention is at TCU. That'd be Chad Glasglow, the defensive coordinator at TCU. Now, the knock on Glasgow would be the knock on, say, Bill Bedenbaugh or Cale Gundy, which is, yeah, you got the coordinator title, but you don't actually call the plays, and we're not really sure how much the scheme is you either, because everybody knows that it's Gary Patterson out there signaling in, telling everybody what they're going to do for a 4-2-5 defense that I love. However, Chad Glasgow has to know the defense nuts and bolts all by now, right? But you also have the kind of talent at Oklahoma where you could plug and play. You know, you have the kind of sleek, fast dudes that you could use to make that defense your own. Now, the knock on it is Oklahoma just got drubbed because it was too finesse-oriented, because it wasn't physical enough for Alabama's offense. So maybe, maybe not, but I think at this point, you got to consider a guy like Chad Glasgow. You also have to consider the defensive coordinator at Utah, Morgan Scalley. I like Morgan Scalley because the scheme is so physical. At Utah, they get in people's faces, they get in their chili. Their DBs play bump and run and actually bump you before they run with you. They don't mind picking up penalties. They just want you to be physical at the point of attack. And that is how Utah was able to put together another one of the top scoring defenses in the country this year. Now, I know they just lost to Northwestern, but I can't actually put that on the defense because Utah turned the ball over more than it should have. And I've seen enough, and you've seen enough of Morgan Scalley to know that guy is a great defensive coordinator. But we're not really sure how much of it is him and how much of it is head coach Kyle Whittingham. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think those are guys that you can go get. But the guy that I haven't talked a lot about, and the guy that I like the most that I haven't talked a lot about, is the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati. That'd be Marcus Freeman. I like Marcus Freeman because he's young. He's just a year older than me. And at Cincinnati, they hung their hat on defense this year. They were able to stay undefeated for a long time, even not being able to score the ball because of their defense. And he was able to recruit to Cincinnati with Ohio State in the same state, Michigan being close by, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Illinois, Notre Dame, all these places he had to compete with in the Big Ten, and yet was still able to put together a pretty great defense. Now give him Oklahoma's tools and let his energy take over and install a defense that he likes, and perhaps you got another winner. You got another guy who's just as hungry as Lincoln Riley to do great things. He's got the Ohio State pedigree, having been an Ohio State linebacker. He's played in the NFL as a linebacker. I really like Marcus Freeman's attitude, and again, what he's able to do in a group of 5 team with a group of 5 assortment of talent. Give him the Big 12, give him Oklahoma's recruiting operation, and then let him go. But what we do know is that this is the biggest hire of Lincoln Riley's young career. He has to get this defensive coordinator position change right. And for the sake of everybody involved, I hope that he picks the right one, because you're going to have to depend on the defense like you haven't had to depend on the defense for a couple of years now, because Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield have been so good. But to think that that's going to keep up, that kind of production at that position, is ridiculous. So you're going to need balance if you're going to compete at the kind of level that we've come to be accustomed to as Oklahoma folks, because getting to college football playoffs is no longer good enough. Now you got to win a national semifinal, and you can't do it without defense. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.